Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Once upon a time, three bears lived in a nice little house in a great forest. There was the father bear, the mother bear, and the baby bear. They had each a bed to sleep in, a chair to sit on, and a bowl and spoon for eating milk or honey, which was their favorite food. One morning the three bears resolved on taking a walk before breakfast, but before they went out they poured their warm milk into their basins that it might get cool by the time they came back. When the milk was poured out, the three bears set out for a walk. Mr. and Mrs. Bear walked arm in arm, and Baby ran by their side. "What a fine day it is," growled Mr. Bear. "What a fine day it is," said Mrs. Bear. "What a fine day," squeaked Baby Bear. And so it was. The sun shone brightly, though it was low in the sky, and its rays glittered on the fine webs on the grass. The leaves shivered in the soft breeze. The wood pigeon cooed. The lark sang loud enough to make himself hoarse. The sparrow chirped, the bee buzzed, and the yellow butterfly perched on Great Bear's nose. "What a squeaky noise these creatures make," said Big Bear as he brushed off the butterfly. "What a pity it is they do not have our deep voices." "Yes," said Mrs. Bear, "you have a much finer voice than the lark. I should like to hear him growl as you do." "Oh, my dear, you are too kind. My growl is nothing like the lion's." And thus conversing, the bears walked on. Now there lived in the same forest a sweet little girl who was called Goldilocks. She was the woodman's daughter, and her hair looked just like the sunbeams. She knew every tree in the greenwood and every flower in it. She loved the birds and liked to listen to their song, and everything in the wood loved Goldilocks. The trees bent down their lower branches to touch her glittering head as she passed by. The birds sang sweeter as she glided by. The lark's song in the sky was, come up, Goldilocks, here is your happy home. Coo, I love you, coo, I love you," cooed the wood pigeon as she passed. "Twit, twit, pretty child," sang the sparrow. "Oh, you darling," sang the blackbird. And Goldilocks laughed with glee, for she liked to be loved. As to the butterflies, they flew after her and rested on her hair and trickled down her cheeks, but she never tried to catch them. She would not frighten or vex them for anything. She loved all creatures, and that is why they loved her. Love makes love. Dear little Goldilocks, she went on singing merrily through the greenwood, saying sometimes to herself, "I wish I could sing as well as the lark." By and by little Goldilocks reached the bear's house. She had never seen it before, and she wondered who lived there. A window was open, and Goldilocks peeped in. "Dear me," thought the child, "whose house can it be? There is a table and three chairs and three basins of hot milk all steaming and nobody to drink it. But I don't see any work or books or anything else. I think I will go in and see who lives here. So she tapped at the door and cried, "Is anyone home?" But there was no answer. Then Goldilocks stepped in very carefully, and she looked about her. She could not see anyone nor hear anybody snoring, so she walked into the bear's parlor. There was a fire, which made the room cheerful, and the hot milk looked very inviting. It seemed to say, "Come, have some breakfast." And the early spring air had made Goldilocks rather cold and very hungry, so she sat down by the fire in the little bear's chair. It was too small for her, but she did not quite sit down at first. In a moment she got up again and went around the table and tasted the milk in all the bowls. Little Bear's was the nicest because it had sugar in it, and Goldilocks thought it was good. So she took the bowl and sat down again in Little Bear's chair, took his spoon, and ate up all his milk. Now, this was very wrong. A tiny bear is only a tiny bear still. He has a right to keep his own things. But Goldilocks did not know any better. Unluckily, Baby Bear's chair was, as we have said, too small for her. She broke the seat and fell through, basin and all. Then Goldilocks went upstairs, and there she saw 3 beds all in a row. Goldilocks laid down on Father's bed first, but that was too long for her. Then she lay down on Mother Bear's bed, but that was too wide for her. Last of all, she laid down on Baby Bear's bed, and there she fell asleep, for she was tired. By and by the bears came home. Baby Bear saw that his chair was broken and thrown down, and he cried in a very squeaky voice, "Somebody has been here." And Father Bear growled, "Somebody has been here." And Mother Bear growled more softly, "Somebody has been here." Then they went to the table and looked at their breakfasts, and Father Bear growled, "Who has touched my bowl?" And Mother Bear growled, "Who has touched my bowl?" And Tiny Baby Bear squeaked, "Somebody's broken mine." And then Tiny Bear began to cry, for he was very fond of his own bowl and his own chair, and besides, he was very hungry after his long walk in the forest. It really did seem a shame. Then the 3 bears thought they would go over their house to see who had been in it and try if they could find the thief. So they went upstairs to the bedroom, which was over their other room, and as soon as they saw the tumbled beds, Father growled, "Who has been lying on my bed?" And Mother Bear growled, "Who's been laying on my bed?" And Tiny Bear squeaked out, "Oh, here's a little girl in my bed, and it must be she who has eaten my breakfast and broken my chair." Then Father Bear growled, "Let's eat her up." And Mother Bear growled, "Let's eat her up." And Tiny Bear squeaked, "Let's eat her up." The noise they made woke Goldilocks, and you may imagine how frightened she was when she saw 3 bears. She started out of bed and jumped once out the window. The bears rushed after her, and Father Bear caught her golden hair in his teeth, but she left a lock behind and still ran on. Then the 3 bears all jumped out after her, but they fell one on top of the other and rolled over and over. And while they were picking themselves up, little Goldilocks ran home, and they were not able to catch her. But I do not think she had acted rightly. Though she did not deserve to be eaten up, it was very wrong to break Little Bear's chair and eat his milk. And I think Goldilocks will have to take great care to keep out of the reach of the three bears. I hope you enjoyed this story. Good night.